the news hour, coming to you live from the studios of HitzAfrik Radio and TV. Stay tuned. Download the tuning app onto your mobile phone today and catch up on all the latest news from HitzAfrik Radio. Broadcasting live on modern Ghana and our website www.hitsafrikradio.org. HitzAfrik Radio News Hour live.
It's a good evening. The time is exactly 19 hours in the studios of HitzAfrik Radio and TV. We are transmitting live on our website at www.hitsafrikradio.org. Also streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at HitzAfrik Radio and TV. This evening we bring you the news hour on HitzAfrik Radio and TV. My name is Abna Ahini. Now let's do the headlines for tonight's stories. Ghana Armed Forces apologizes to injured journalists. Equiapim Polo's lawyer to appeal jail sentence. 230 suspected criminals arrested at Soja Bar. Lewin celebrates birthday with students at school. These and many other stories I bring your way this evening. Stay tuned as we do the news in details.
The news hour, coming to you live from the studios of HitzAfrik Radio and TV. Stay tuned.
You're still logged on to HitzAfrik Radio and TV. We are transmitting live on our website at www.hitsafrikradio.org. Now let's do the news in details. La Land protests. Ghana Armed Forces apologizes to injured journalists, civilians. The Ghana Armed Forces GAF has apologized to journalists and some other civilians who were injured when it quelled a protest on Thursday, 15th April 2021 at La in Accra. The GAF in a press release said it had to apply reasonable force to remove the protesters who were demonstrating in an area that houses military installations. The demonstrators were included groups within the La Traditional Council and the coalition of La associations were protesting alleged encroachment of Las 2 lands by the military. The release disclosed that the military high command has commenced investigations into the unfortunate incident. The facts of the matter are that in the morning of Thursday, 15th April 2021, GAF received intelligence that some civilians were demonstrating and moving towards Burma camp, the release said. A recognized team was dispatched to confirm the report, but they could not determine the intentions of the demonstrators. On seeing the soldiers, the demonstrators who had no police permit to demonstrate became violent. The reconnaissance team called for the reinforcement, which came to stop the violent youth from causing any damage to military installations. It is worthy to note that the general area where the demonstration was taking place houses vital military installations of national security nature. The implications of any destruction in the area cannot be overemphasized. In order to restrain the demonstrators, reasonable force had to be applied to remove them. Thus, in the process, some of the demonstrators or persons got injured. It later came to light that some of the injured persons were journalists who were there to cover the event. Moving on to other stories. Equiapim Polo's lawyer to appeal jail sentence. Counsel for actress Rosamond Brown, popularly known as Equiapim Polo, says he will appeal against the 90-day jail sentence against the client. Mr. Andrew Voshia, after the actress was jailed on Friday, 16th April 2021, said, "For me, I want to go for an appeal." He indicated he has already written requesting for the full judgment. If I have it by the close of the day, by 9 a.m. on Monday, April 19th, I will file an appeal. he said whilst addressing journalists after the court sentence. Ekuapin Polo was given a 90-day jail term following her conviction on charges of publication of obscene material and domestic violence. The actress was convicted on her own plea after she had pleaded guilty to 3 counts of publication of obscene materials engaging in domestic violence, namely a conduct that in any way undermined another person's privacy or integrity, and engaging in domestic violence, namely conduct that in any way distracted or was likely to distract from another person's dignity and worth as a human being. In an emotional atmosphere, lawyer for the convict, Mr. Andy Voshia, along with other lawyers who were present at the court, prayed independently to the court for a non-custodial sentence, but the court held a harsh sentence must be passed to serve as a deterrent for would-be offenders. The court held that the prevalence of publications of material with the potential to corrupt public morals in the country and which affected children's best interest, right to privacy and dignity, as well as the country's moral image, needed to be curbed. Ms. Christiana Khan, the judge, therefore sentenced her to 90 days in prison, each for all 3 counts, which are to run concurrently. Moving on to other stories, 230 suspected criminals arrested at Soldier Bar. Personnel from the National Police Operations have arrested 230 suspected criminals and commercial sex workers at the environs of Soldier Bar at the Kwame Nkrumah Circle in Accra. They were made up of Ghanaians and other traditionals from Togo, Benin, and Nigeria. Items found on them included 33 motorbikes, 38 rubbers of dried leaves suspected to be India hemp, cash of 6,750 Ghana cedis, a Beninese passport, health insurance card, an ATM card, and 153 assaulted mobile phones. Speaking to journalists, the Director of Operations, ACP Ahin Kwesi Ano, said the operation commenced around 11 p.m. on Thursday, April 15, 2021, to 2 a.m. on Friday, April 16, 2021. So for the past 2 weeks, we have been monitoring their activities, and then yesterday night, we decided to swoop on them. Fortunately, when we went there, we were able to arrest some people or some suspected criminals. The total number of suspects that were arrested is 230, he said. We believe that some of these motorbikes are used to commit a lot of crimes. You can talk about snatching of mobile phones, snatching of bags, among others, he added. He said the suspects would be screened and those found culpable will be dealt with. He said an operation would be replicated to curb crime in the city. Moving on to other stories. Apply anti-galamsey laws rigidly. Consultative dialogue. Mr. Samuel Abu Jinapor, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, giving the opening remarks on the second day of the National Dialogue on Small-Scale Mining. The National Consultative Dialogue on Small-Scale Mining has called on the government to take steps to put in place systems for the rigid application of laws against illegal small-scale mining. A 15-point monique read on Thursday, 15th April, by the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Mr. Samuel Abdullahi Jinapor, at the end of the 2-day meeting, stressed that sanctions and penalties imposed by the Minerals and Mining Amendment Act 2019, Act 995, should be applied to all those who infringe the law, irrespective of political color, socio-economic status, or class. Indeed, it said, the better placed in society and who ought to know better should have the most punitive of the penalties applied to them. The communique described illegal mining, popularly known as galamsey, as a national emergency that required urgent and concerted efforts. It therefore called on all political parties, stakeholder groups, and individuals to join the development and execution of this national, not parochial, agenda to rid ourselves of the long-standing issue of illegal small-scale mining and the need to implement measures to eradicate it from our society. The dialogue was opened by President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo last Wednesday, during which he called for an impartial and non-partisan dialogue for the country to reach a consensus on a sustainable method of mining minerals. He said there were things that could be discussed along partisan lines, but issues bordering on small-scale mining and the requirement to do away with illegalities on that sector should be beyond partisan politics. The communique acknowledged the notable contribution of the small-scale mining sector to at least a third of Ghana's gold production and 100% of diamonds in recent years. It also saw it as a major source of supply for development minerals such as clay, kaolin, and limestone. In so doing, the sector had been the main source of livelihood and economic activities in some remote and deprived areas it considered. While admitting that, when properly done, small-scale mining could have the key to significant economic benefits, it agreed that galamsey was a major threat to the future of our water resources, particularly the environment at large, thereby threatening the country's integrity. Galamsey has caused the worst formation of pollution and contamination of water bodies, in a lot of instances the turbidity, rendering them unsuitable for domestic use and even for treatment by the water company, and sometimes made toxic with chemicals such as mercury and cyanide. The dialogue, however, notes regrettably that some unsustainable practices in the operations of the small-scale mining sector cause major health and safety challenges, leading to preventable and, therefore, unacceptable frequent accidents, injuries, and fatalities. The communique pointed out. It said galamsey had led to the degradation of lands, in many cases, leaving numerous uncovered, dangerous water-filled pits scattered over the landscape, making it unsuitable for agriculture or any other uses, as well as unsafe for both human and animal occupation. It also came with atmospheric pollution, laden with dust, smoke, and chemical pollutants such as mercury fumes, it pointed out. The dialogue was still took note of the widespread allegations of the participation of all the support accorded by people of prominence in government, the public, and the civil services, traditional authorities, business leaders, and other opinion leaders to these illegal mining activities, which has given credence and prominence to the activity, it added. The communique therefore resolved that the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources should take appropriate steps, legislative and or executive action, as the case might be, to give effect to the set of measures arising from the dialogue and approved by government. The dialogue called on all stakeholders, all citizens, and all residents, as well as visitors to our country, to be mindful of and give due regard or respect to the laws of the land, to ensure peaceful coexistence for all, as well as build a solid foundation for our future based on our natural resources, rather than waste these and destroy our heritage. It also called for similar consultations to be held in all mining regions and districts of our country. Further to that, other public relation tools should be employed to generate overwhelming public support for the national policy on small-scale mining, it said. The dialogue reviewed written memoranda, proposals, and other submissions, as well as verbal agreements, recommendations, presentations, and other submissions made. Mandated the technical committee, headed by the Member of Parliament for Echima Inwabiaja North and former Deputy Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Mr. Benito Owusubio, to come up with a comprehensive report which reflected the detailed conclusions of the dialogue. The report will be tabled before the cabinet for its examination and adoption to make it a policy of the government. Moving on to other stories. President Akufo-Addo leaves for Brazzaville. President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo left Accra on Thursday for Brazzaville, the capital of the Republic of Congo, to attend the swearing-in of that country's president-elect, Denis Sassou Nguesso. He is attending the event in his capacity as chairperson of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. The president was accompanied by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Madame Shirley Ayoko Botche, and officials of the Presidency and Foreign Ministry. He will return to Ghana on Friday, April 16, 2021. Vice President Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia will act in his stead. And this is where we end our local stories. Stay tuned as we do other African news.
The News Hour, coming to you live from the studios of HitzAfrik Radio and TV. Stay tuned.
You're still logged on to HitzAfrik Radio and TV. We are transmitting live on our website at www.hitzafrikradio.org. Also, we are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at HitzAfrik Radio and TV. Now let's do some other African countries. In Nigeria, 8 arrested for breaking Ramadan rules. 8 people have been arrested by Islamic police in Nigeria's northern state of Kano for allegedly refusing to fast during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. The Hizbah police enforce Islamic law in Kano, one of the 12 mainly Muslim states in northern Nigeria, practicing the Sharia legal system alongside the country's secular laws. The culprits were 5 females and 3 males eaten in the afternoon in the month of the Ramadan. Aliyu Kibiya, the executive director of the Kano State Hizbah Board, is quoted as saying, "During Ramadan, Muslims should abstain from eating and drinking between sunrise and sunset. Fasting is obligatory for all adult followers of the faith who are able to safely go without food and drink. Those who are sick or ill or whose health will be affected by fasting, including children, pregnant and breastfeeding women, and travelers are exempted." Khalifa Shehu Dokaji is in Kano says the woman told the Hizbah that they were exempt as they were menstruating, but the police were of the view that should not have been eaten in public. If the group is charged in court, they could be fined or sent to a correctional institution, our reporter says. Mr. Kibiya's statement warned that more raids would be conducted across the state to ensure people adhere to their religious obligations. Moving on to other stories, about 80% of Nigeria town flees after 3 attacks in a week. As many as 65,000 people have fled violence in the northeastern Nigerian town of Damasak, the United Nations said on Friday. The so-called Islamic State West African Province Group unleashed a series of attacks in Borno State, looting the burning homes, warehouses, and humanitarian agencies, a police station, a clinic, and also an UNHCR facility. Up to 80% of the town's population, which includes the local community and internally displaced people as well, were forced to flee, said Baba Balog, spokesperson for UNHCR. ISWAP split from Boko Haram in 2016 and has become a dominant threat in Nigeria. More than 36,000 have been killed and 2 million displaced by the decade-long fighting in Nigeria that has spread into neighboring Chad, Cameroon, and Niger. Some have fled towards the regional capital, Maiduguri, and other nearby towns, while others have crossed the border into Niger's Difa region, itself vulnerable to jihadist violence. The people of Damasak are desirous to stay in Damasak. However, because of the security situation, some have fled into the bush, some have fled into neighboring Niger for safety, said Abubakar Chari, senator representing Borno North. Nigeria's army dismissed reports militants had overrun Damasak and said on Thursday troops were in control of the area. At least 4 people, including a soldier, were killed in an attack on Monday. The UN said 8 others were killed Wednesday, while locals said 10 bodies were buried and 20 people were injured. The town hosts one of the military fortified garrisons, or so-called super camps, to fend off attacks, but critics say closing smaller bases for the larger camps have left jihadists freer to roam in rural areas. Moving on to other stories, gay couple fights in Namibia government over surrogate born twins. On a calm autumn afternoon, newborn twins Maya and Paula lay peacefully on a mattress at a Johannesburg house, blissfully taking turns to bottle feed and nap, obvious of the uncertainty over their citizenship status. They are daughters of Namibian-Mexican gay couple, and the Namibian authorities have dragged their feet on issuing documents for the girls born to a South African surrogate mother to travel to Windhoek. They have demanded proof of a biological connection to the infant on the part of the parent, 38-year-old Philip Luahil, and his partner Guillermo Delgado, 36. The men are now pinning their homes on a Namibia High Court ruling scheduled for Monday to at least allow the infant to secure temporary documents to travel in Windhoek and join Delgado and their 2-year-old brother Yuna. Before the babies arrived, the couple had applied for papers to ensure they would be able to travel home to Namibia shortly after birth. To our surprise, that every very innocent request was denied. Luahel told AFP, "Now I'm here in South Africa with the girls and cannot travel, cannot enter Namibia," he said as the girl's 70-year-old grandmother, Frau Luel, bottle-fed one while the other slept. For now, a house in Johannesburg's leafy suburb of Auckland Park is the girl's temporary home. And this is where we end our other African stories. Stay tuned as we do some world news.
The News Hour, coming to you live from the studios of HitzAfrik Radio and TV. Stay tuned.
You're still logged on to HitzAfrik Radio and TV. We are transmitting live on our website at www.hitzafrikradio.org. Now let's do some world news. In US, spies doubt reports of Russian bounties for troops. A spokeswoman for President Joe Biden said the claim had low to moderate confidence from US spy chiefs. Russia has denied paying the bounties. In last year's US election, Mr. Biden heavily criticized Donald Trump for not confronting Russia over the claim. It comes amid new sanctions on Russia and US plans to leave Afghanistan. US imposing sanctions on Russia for cyber attacks. The intelligence assessment was first reported last June by the New York Times and was cited by Mr. Biden on the 2020 presidential campaign trail to accuse then-President Russia. Mr. Trump at the time called it fake news and a fake issue. He later tweeted that he was not briefed on the subject because US intelligence agents had not deemed it credible. At a White House news briefing on Thursday, Press Secretary Jen Psaki told reporters the intelligence community had determined it had low to moderate confidence in the claims. She said this was due to the fact that the information was said to have come from interrogations of Afghan detainees. In Hong Kong, Jimmy Lai sentenced to 14 months for democracy protest. Hong Kong pro-democracy media tycoon Jimmy Lai has been sentenced to 14 months in prison after being found guilty of unauthorized assembly. Mr. Lai was one of several activities in court on Friday who were either found guilty of charges relating to large pro-democracy demonstrations in 2019. The prosecution urged the freedom of assembly, while granted in the Constitution, was not absolute in Hong Kong. Mr. Lai is one of the most prominent supporters of Hong Kong's pro-democracy movement and faces separate charges under Beijing's national security law. Estimated to be worth more than $1 billion, 766 million pounds. He made his initial fortune in the clothing industry and later ventured into media and founded Next Digital. Next Digital publishes Apple Daily, a well-read tabloid which is frequently critical of Hong Kong and mainland Chinese leadership. And this is where we end our world news. Stay tuned as we do some entertainment news.
The News Hour, coming to you live from the studios of HitzAfrik Radio and TV. Stay tuned.
You're still logged on to HitzAfrik Radio and TV. We are transmitting live on our website at www.hitzafrikradio.org. We are also streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at HitzAfrik Radio and TV. Now let's do some entertainment news. I'm strong and I will be back. Equiapim Polo breaks silence after prison sentence. Ghanaian socialite Rosamond Brown, popularly known as Equiapim Polo, has spoken for the first time since she was sentenced to prison. The controversial actress was sentenced to 90 days in prison by an Accra Circuit Court on Friday, April 16, 2021. This was after she posted nude and obscene materials of herself and her young son on social media some months ago. Equiapim Polo pleaded guilty in court after being charged over the publication of obscene material and domestic violence. Several Ghanaians have described her sentence as harsh, with some taking to social media to express their displeasure. Reacting to her prison sentence, the actress thanked all those who supported her in the lead up to the judgment. She also called for prayers from her sympathizers, adding that she will be back as a stronger and better person. Guys, you know your girl is strong. Sometimes in life, you have to pass through some things to make you stronger, she said in a video posted on Instagram. I know it's a test I have to go through. I'm strong. All that I need now is your prayers and your support. Your girl will be back. I love you. Moving on to other stories, Lewin celebrates birthday with students of her school. Kumewood actor Kojo Nkansa, popularly known as Lewin, turned 34 yesterday, April 15, 2021. The celebrated comic actor decided to mark the day in the company of kids from his school, Great Minds International. More than 800 students and teachers gathered on the school compound to celebrate the birthday of their proprietor. Lewin celebrates birthday with students of his school. Some of the kids recited poems, while others also performed other arts as they celebrated Lewin. And this is where we end our news for tonight. Stay tuned as I bring you a recap of tonight's headlines.
The News Hour, coming to you live from the studios of HitzAfrik Radio and TV. Stay tuned.
You're still logged on to HitzAfrik Radio and TV. Now let's do a recap of tonight's stories. Ghana Armed Forces apologizes to injured journalists. Equiapim Polo's lawyer to appeal jail sentence. 230 suspected criminals arrested at Soldier Bar. Lewin celebrates birthday with students at school. These and many other stories I brought your way this evening. My name is Abna Ahunye. Do enjoy the rest of our programs and have a lovely weekend. Goodbye.